Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly pumped to have you here as we dive right into a seriously captivating historical narrative. We're dropping straight into a super intense moment in time, an epic confrontation painted with incredibly vivid, dramatic strokes. It's just a fantastic example of how a few lines of source material can build massive tension and basically thrust you directly onto the battlefield. So no waiting around, let's jump right into the sheer intensity of this historical clash.
Okay, just listen to how this text opens. When Aurangzeb's army was advancing while destroying temples, suddenly ash-smeared, dreadlocked warriors, Naga Sadhus, appeared. They were not just monks but protectors of religion. Sword in hand, fire in their eyes, they fearlessly the Mughal. Now, did you catch that? Notice how it just cuts off right at the very end? Even just reading it out loud, you can literally feel the rhythmic buildup of the scene. The narrative plunges us straight into the middle of the action, giving us an incredibly dramatic portrait of an impending clash.
Let's break this down a bit more, starting with Section 1, Aurangzeb's army's campaign.
Before we even see the heroes of this narrative, the stage is set by introducing this unstoppable, rolling force. The phrasing here is deliberate, perfectly designed to immediately establish some terrifyingly high stakes. The imperial forces are described as advancing while destroying temples. There's this continuous, really relentless, forward-moving momentum implied by the word advancing, and having the destruction of temples as the backdrop of this movement, that immediately signals to us that this isn't just some standard territorial dispute. No, this is a deep ideological and cultural crisis. The narrative stakes are cranked to the absolute maximum right from the opening clause. You can almost hear the marching footsteps and feel the heavy gravity of the threat.
Which brings us to Section 2, the sudden arrival of the Naga Sadhus.
But right as we're visualizing this relentless forward march, the pacing abruptly shifts. The text hits us with a four-part sensory barrage to introduce a sudden, jarring interruption to the army's advance. We don't just get regular men appearing, we get striking visual details. First, they're described as ash-smeared, conveying an intense ascetic detachment from worldly life. Second, they're dreadlocked, showcasing a wild, untamed devotion. Third, sword in hand, which instantly introduces a lethal physical threat. And finally, fire in their eyes, representing a burning internal fury or spiritual conviction. It is brilliant descriptive storytelling that practically forces you to visualize them standing right there on the battlefield.
Moving on to Section 3, Ascetics and Protectors of Faith.
So the really crucial point here is how the narrative redefines these individuals entirely. The text explicitly states they're not just monks, but protectors of religion. Usually, when we think of monks or ascetics, we picture quiet meditation and peaceful detachment, right? But this completely flips the script. It's a massive shift in expectation. Asceticism and martial prowess are merged into one single entity here. These are armed defenders of their faith, where spiritual discipline has literally been weaponized for physical confrontation. This total redefinition is exactly why their sudden appearance inspires such awe.
And this leaves us with an epic thematic contrast between two completely different types of power. On one side, you've got the imperial army, which is implied to be massive, organized, institutional, and just relentlessly pushing forward. On the exact opposite side, you have the Naga Sadhus, visually wild, organically formed, fueled by sheer spiritual fire, and standing directly in the path of that institutional force. It creates a classic unstoppable force meets an immovable object scenario, all done entirely through contrasting descriptive choices. I mean, the stakes and the tension seriously couldn't be higher.
And finally, Section 4, their fearless stance against the Mughals.
And then bam, we hit the cliffhanger. The momentum of the advancing army and the sudden fiery appearance of the Sadhus are on a direct collision course. Everything has been building to this exact split second of impact. They fearlessly. The Mughals. It actually leaves out the verb. We don't get attacked or fought or clashed with. The action intentionally stops midair. By suspending the narrative right at the absolute pinnacle of tension, the author ensures that this vivid image, these ash-smeared warriors with raised swords staring down an advancing army, is permanently burned into your imagination.
Which leads us to the final thought of this explainer. The text leaves us hanging with this massive, totally unanswered question. What was the result of this fearlessness? By cutting the narrative off right at the moment of impact, the source material does exactly what great storytelling is supposed to do. It leaves you absolutely desperate to know what happens next. Did their sudden appearance completely halt the advance? What actually happened when these two contrasting forces finally collided? I highly encourage you to reflect on how beautifully this short excerpt built up that tension. I really hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity to explore these fascinating historical encounters even further. Keep questioning and keep learning.